Hello. It's your boy, Amreezy, and I'm back with another Premier League and Sorare review show. We do these every Monday live, exclusively live on YouTube. YouTube Live on the Amreezy channel. Welcome. Here's what I like to do. I like to review the weekend of Premier League football just gone every Monday and talk about Sorare. So if you watch my videos every Thursday, where I review my Sorare gallery, talk about what I'm doing, all my lineups, all my cards I'm buying and showing, I show you everything. And if you're ever thinking, I like these Road to Sorare Boss videos on Thursdays, but I wish I could chat to Amreezy live. I wish I could talk to him in a guaranteed slot every week. You can now do that on these videos, on this series. Every Monday, I'm doing a live video where we're going to go through every single game in the Premier League the weekend just gone. And we're going to talk what that means for Sorare, all the cards of interest. And we can talk about other things in Sorare as well. If you want, we can look at galleries, we can build lineups. That's something I like to do. Last weekend, there was no Premier League football the weekend, so we just built some lineups. We can do things like that, so we can talk Sorare, we talk Premier League. If you are watching this video in the future, do join us live for one of these one day, because, I mean, sure, the video is fun in the past. It's fun in the future. It's fun watching it not live, but if you watch it live, you get to jump in the chat and talk with me. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, do help me out. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We are going to talk Premier League football today. We're going to jump right in it. So Monday Night Football is just finished. And it was Newcastle versus Leicester. Unsurprisingly, Newcastle winning there. But we're going to go back to the beginning. And we're going to start with the first game of the week, which was on Saturday. It was Everton versus Arsenal. And I called it. I said this would not be an easy win for Arsenal. I had a feeling that Beto would do well. Because of Arsenal's injury problems in defence, this suddenly became an interesting fixture. I think if Gabriel was fit, this may not have been an interesting fixture. But with Timber, Gabriel, and Calafiori all being injured... Wait, Timber came off the bench. Scratch that. Who are the injured defenders? Calafiori, Gabriel, Tomiyasu. So yeah, they were the three defenders. And I think Timber wasn't fully fit. So I think he came off the bench because he's coming back from a mini knock. So yeah, Arsenal had injury problems. I put some Everton boys in one of my lineups, kind of expecting Everton to at least score one. Here we go. I put Ndiaye in this lineup, champion in season. And I swear I put two Everton boys. Oh, here they are. All-star. And they didn't actually do anything. Beto and Decore, because I was thinking maybe Everton get a goal here. Maybe they surprise Arsenal with that rickety defence. So I did put two Arsenal boys here. Neither of them did anything. The one to go for, it turns out, which we all should have known. Oh, wait, Dwight McNeil came off the bench. Ooh, interesting Sorare news already. Off the bat, Dwight McNeil is back. So at the beginning of the season, Dwight McNeil was a fun Sorare card to have. Let's have a quick look at Dwight McNeil. How much is he going for? Have people realized he's back from injury, or is it too late in the season? £1.24, not a bad price. I think I paid like £7 or £8 for my Dwight McNeil earlier on. But earlier on in the season, this is what we were enjoying with Dwight McNeil. This is game week 1. So this is the first week of the season. Dwight McNeil was giving us glorious scores here at the beginning of the season. He started the season on fire. And maybe Everton would have had an even better season if Dwight McNeil hadn't got injured. So he started the season on fire here with some glorious scores. Then he went a bit off the boil. Then he got a bit of a knock here. This is where he kind of had a bit of a quiet period and then got injured. So now he's back. I mean, I've still got a Dwight McNeil in-season card. Wait, I don't think it's in-season. I think it's classic, so it's not that exciting. But if I had a Dwight McNeil in-season card and I'd kept through all of this injury, you might hope they can do this. I know Everton have some tricky fixtures coming up, so that's gonna limit the chances of this happening again. And also, this was at the beginning of the season when all the teams were a bit rusty. You know, I think Everton took advantage of that, especially Dwight McNeil. But now I think he's got Arsenal. I think he may have... here we go. Forest away, Manchester City and Chelsea. So 3 tricky fixtures. So I wouldn't go out of my way to buy a Dwight McNeil right now. But if you have one, you can be excited. At least he's fit again. at least the big man is fit again. So Dwight McNeil coming off the bench, that's the first thing of note, I think, for Sorare. It could be a good time to pick up a cheap Dwight McNeil if you haven't got one. If you've got one, like I've got a classic one, so it's time to get it out of the attic. It's time to get it playing again. Dwight McNeil season is back. So with Dwight McNeil coming back, I mean, Undayi picked up an injury, so the easy thing for Everton to do would be just swap Undayi for Dwight McNeil now. If the Undayi injury is not as bad as we think, then maybe Harrison misses out and Undayi goes to this wing. Or, yeah, I can't really see them doing anything else. I can't really see them dropping Beto and playing someone as a false number 9. So I think in terms of Everton, Dwight McNeil should probably replace Undayi or Harrison. He's probably better than both of them. So if he's fully fit, I wouldn't be surprised if he has 1 or 2 more games off the bench, because you don't want to rush him back, especially with them being tricky fixtures anyway. And they probably want a more of a defensive-minded winger, Everton, for those next 3 games. But yeah, Dwight McNeil injury should be over now. That's interesting. The defense was the same. I have seen Jordan Pickford cards. I've been tempted. Jordan Pickford cards in limited going for very cheap, like £15 almost, which for an England international goalkeeper, Premier League starting goalkeeper in season could be fun. But with those 3 games coming up, you might want to hold off Everton just for now. Arsenal, on the other hand, Sterling started, which was a surprise, came off at half-time, not a surprise. Nwaneri started, that was a surprise. Saka came on at half-time. So, yeah, there were some rumours Saka was going to start this game. He didn't start. I guess he's not quite ready for that. But he played 45 minutes. So, I think he did like 30 minutes in the first game, 45 minutes second game. He's ready for his start, probably in the Champions League against Real Madrid. And then maybe he gets rested in the league. I would be cautious with Saka. I have seen, with Saka coming back from injury last week, a lot of Sorare activity in Saka, price going up. I would just hold off with Saka. If you do really want him for the last few games of the season, maybe wait till see what happens in the Real Madrid game. Because what if he gets injured in the Real Madrid game? There's no rush. Unless you want him for the Champions League game, then you want to get Saka now. But yeah, I'd hold off Saka. Midfielders, I did wonder what would happen with Merino at Arsenal when the strikers came back from injury, because he was kind of playing up front and doing okay. Now that Saka's back, now that Martinelli's back, Merino seems to have dropped to midfield this game. We still don't know if he's going to stay as a midfielder, if he's going to go back to being a striker some weeks. But Trossard scored, so that kind of justifies his case for being the kind of starting striker for Arsenal now. But I guess they didn't win, and maybe Merino goes back. Again, a lot will depend on the Champions League game against Real Madrid, because realistically Arsenal are out of the title race now. Not beating Everton in a week when Liverpool lost really feels like a missed opportunity for Arsenal. So now surely that is the title done. So you would think Champions League's their big priority now. That's all they've really got to play for. So I would expect them to put a team out against Real Madrid and possibly rest players in the league now. So I wouldn't feel that confident with Arsenal, except for defenders. I mean, if you've got a Saliba, chances are Saliba's going to play every game, because it's not like Arsenal have many other options. But yeah, it was a surprise draw for Arsenal. I did think they would win. I thought Everton would cause them problems, but Arsenal would be so determined to have a bit of pride at stake, try and put a tiny bit of pressure on Liverpool. And if they had have won, because Liverpool did lose, it would have been, they could have been 9 points behind instead of 11. So now it's double digits. It does feel like it's gone. Possibly if it was 9 points with them still to play Liverpool, they would have had like a glimmer of hope still. So yeah, I do think, I do think Liverpool kind of let themselves down. Liverpool did definitely, but Arsenal also kind of let themselves down. And I didn't expect a clean sheet for Arsenal, but I did expect a lot more attacking threat. I think I put Nwaneri in one of my lineups, and it looks like he had a terrible game. 6.7. Worst rating from the strikers. Got subbed at halftime. Jorginho with a bad game. Kiwior with a bad game. Everton with a couple of bad scores. So yeah, wasn't a great game for anyone individually from either side. And looks like a draw was a fair-ish result. Yeah, nothing to get excited about here. Odegaard on the bench. I'm not quite sure why Odegaard was on the bench. Is that just purely resting players for Real Madrid? Might seem so, might seem so. So that was the first game. The early kickoff on a Saturday was Everton 1, Arsenal 1. Then we go to Crystal Palace 2, Brighton 1, which was, as most Crystal Palace Brighton games usually are, a fairly heated game. 3 red cards in total. Just kind of what you want from a Palace Brighton game. I think in terms of my Sorare lineups, I played my Division 1 Premier League in season team was Crystal Palace heavy, and they let me down in the week against Southampton, but I think everyone had tricky fixtures across my Premier League in season cards this week. So I went for Palace as the number 1, not really expecting a clean sheet. So that's why I didn't play the centre back. I played the wing back because I thought they won't keep a clean sheet, but maybe they'll score a few goals because Brighton don't exactly have the most watertight defence. And Eze delivered, Mateta delivered, but unfortunately Sarr didn't deliver. He missed a glorious chance. Which was painful as a Sarr owner. He didn't really have a great score for AA. Fouled twice and 11 accurate passes, 5 in the final third. That was about the highlight of his game. In terms of possession, he lost possession 10 times. So a terrible game for him. No shots, no penalty area entries. Quite a surprise, really. He's been quite lively before that. That was his worst game in a few weeks, so that was disappointing. And then no clean sheet was a bit of a disappointment here. What minute did Mitchell come off? Mitchell came off on 63 minutes, so that was a bit of a disappointment as well. So nothing won here. Well, hang on, Amreezy, slow down. 10 Essence won, thank you very much. 10 Essence won here. This was my best Premier League lineup, which won $5. We'll get to that when we cover Tottenham. But yeah, Crystal Palace kind of let me down here. I backed Lacroix as my captain in the special top tacklers competition because I thought, it's going to be a very active game. He's going to be involved a lot. He was not. So in terms of Sorare scores, disappointing from me in terms of how I performed. Just looking purely at the statistics, though, it does look like Crystal Palace completely dominated Brighton, and watching this game, it didn't feel that much of a difference. It didn't feel like Crystal Palace were this much better than Brighton, but scores wise and match ratings wise, which is very similar to Sorare scores because all of these are based on Opta scores, remember. It was a bad day to own Brighton players unless you didn't have Danny Welbeck, and I don't think many people should have Danny Welbeck. If you are a sensible Sorare manager, you surely would have João Pedro. You wouldn't have Danny Welbeck, and a bit of a surprise to see Danny Welbeck and not João Pedro start. Not quite sure why that was. Maybe a slight knock. The rest of the Brighton team looked fairly similar. Poor scores all round. Balebe getting the best of their scores in midfield. Lewis Dunk now seems to be back. That's kind of interesting Sorare news if you fancy a Lewis Dunk. And I'm just curious what a rare Lewis Dunk is going for, because recently I've been thinking about moving into rare for next season. A couple of rare lineups, a couple of budget lineups. Lewis Dunk, £3.16 in season, 68p, classic. Now the problem with Lewis Dunk though is he's not really the biggest scorer. Even when he was fit here, high 50s is kind of what he's not really a good Sorare scorer. Had a good game against Arsenal. Only one time he broke the green this whole season. And he was injured. He is getting on a little bit now. I think he's in his later 30s. How old is he? 32 now. So he's maybe got one or two more years in the Prem. But the scores put me off. The season before, it's not like he was a high scorer there as well. A couple of better scores last season, but with him, wow, this was a really good period. What was this game? Sheffield United. Okay, of course, Sheffield United. Fill your boots up. Yeah, I'm tempted. Lewis Dunk is back, and last season, he was scoring really well. He is only a couple of pence, 68p. You can get a classic. But not for me. Not for me, I don't think. But yeah, Lewis Dunk is back, possibly of interest for some people. Van Hecke getting a sending off does increase Lewis Dunk's chances of playing the next couple of games. It might be a better rare pick. A rare pick for 41p, depending on the fixtures. If they've got Southampton or Leicester, this could be a good card to pick for 40p. Where do we see fixtures? They do have Leicester at home next. Then Brentford away, then West Ham at home. So a 1 week punt. I wonder if there's a sort of special competition, a cap 250 competition. Lewis Dunk at home to Leicester could be a nice in-season pick for 36p. I don't hate it. He'll definitely play because he's back from injury, and in this game against Palace, Van Heck got sent off, so he should be starting. Leicester at home could be a clean sheet. So that's of interest to me. Lewis Dunk. Mitoma, very bad score from Mitoma. I was debating heavily getting a Mitoma card a few weeks ago. Didn't go for him in the end, and I haven't really regretted it. I think he's given a couple of good scores now here and there, but he hasn't really... Yeah, look at his scores here. Too many... He had a good period here, Chelsea and Southampton. Got a couple of 7s, but nothing really higher than a 7.2 in the last couple of games. So I'm glad I avoided Mitoma. In terms of Crystal Palace, they're a really frustrating team because I have my in-season Premier League stack for Crystal Palace, but there's just too much point sharing. Mateta picks up goals here and there. Eze seems to do really well or have quiet games. Sa again. The defenders all take turns at being the scorer. It's not like one of the defenders is the go-to guy. Sometimes it's LaCroix, sometimes it's Gay, sometimes it's Mitchell. Munoz was the one to go for this week. Very frustrating, and an injury it might be for LaCroix as well, which is not good for me as he's the one that I played, which is probably why I had such a poor score in my top tacklers competition, because he didn't play 90 minutes. He played 89 minutes. Okay, so hopefully that's not a serious injury to LaCroix. Otherwise, we're in trouble with the Palace boys. But in terms of positive spin for Palace cards, at least they won. They keep their momentum going because they did have a disappointing score against Southampton the game before where they drew 1-1. So at least they're back to winning ways. I'd be more worried if I had Brighton cards than I do having Crystal Palace cards. So hopefully in the time remaining between now and the end of the season, there's going to be a week when all 5 of my Palace cards smash. I've just got to keep going with them. What are Crystal Palace's fixtures like? They've got Manchester City away. That's not gonna be pretty. Newcastle away. That's not gonna be pretty. Bournemouth at home. That could be pretty. Arsenal away. If Arsenal are still in the Champions League, which I've got a feeling they might not be, but they could be. They could surprise us against Real Madrid. Then maybe Arsenal are going to be... Title race is gone. They're going to be tired. But then the other danger is Crystal Palace are still in the FA Cup. So maybe Crystal Palace also don't take this game seriously because they're going to concentrate on the FA Cup. Then they've got Forest and Tottenham. So they've not got really any great fixtures remaining, Crystal Palace. Maybe Tottenham. But that's not the easiest game. So that was Crystal Palace versus Brighton. The next game was Ipswich versus Wolves. And this was another game that was of significance for me, where I was really hoping, from a Sorare point of view, my Wolves in-season stack that I built here, all 5 Wolves in-season cards against Ipswich, who are in the relegation zone. You know, as someone that's playing on a bit of a budget, you would have thought this is the kind of game you get excited for. Ipswich, it's a game you target. You put your best 5 Wolves cards out. You see what happens. I had an eye on the game. And I did a lot of crying because, yes, Strand Larsen scored. Thanks for the yellow card. But Bellegarde, bad. Gomez, bad. Jose Sarr, bad. Totti, average. So Wolves' experiment this season has been a learning curve. I've learned that probably don't do this next season. Probably don't back the teams that I don't think are going to get relegated but will fight for survival and do well against the weaker teams, because that's twice I've said this now when Wolves have had a game like this where I think they did this against Southampton and they did this against Ipswich, where even though they win, it's not enough to back this strategy of buying a full collection for a team that I think will stay up and beat the teams below them. So yes, they're beating the teams below them, but I didn't quite realize that they'll only just beat them and the scores won't be that great. So next season, I think if we want to go for some budget stacks, we've got to go budget stacks further up the table. Teams like Forest, Bournemouth earlier in the season, and then maybe Palace, but Wolves is a bit too far down for my appetite. So that's been the lesson from Wolves. I think, I have won enough cash back from the Wolves collection to feel like it wasn't like a massive mistake. I think I broke even. I think I probably made as much as I spent on them, but I won't be doing that strategy next year. In terms of the game, it was a great performance from Wolves. A little bit like Crystal Palace. All of these green scores, all great scores, but in terms of Sorare, not enough AA being scored, too many points being spread, a little bit like Crystal Palace. You don't really know who to pick from defense because Gomez, Agbadu, Doherty have been all kind of equally as good, all three of them at the back. And then the wingbacks, Nori and Semedo, probably have fallen off a bit. They've all given you random scores where they give you a great score. But in terms of as a season, Semedo and Nori haven't been consistent enough. And the midfield two in the middle, Gomez and Andre, have had their moments throughout the season where they've scored goals, they've got assists, but not been consistent enough. Now, the only kind of possible salvation for Wolves is Cunha is going to be back next game. The only shame is he's missed Southampton and he's missed Ipswich. What fixtures are left for Cunha to get excited about? Tottenham at home, Manchester United away, Leicester at home. That's the big one. That's the last shot for this Wolves in-season collection is in 3 weeks' time when they play Leicester at home, hopefully with Cunha. So in that lineup, I'll be playing Larson and Cunha up front and hoping against Leicester they can both smash. Hopefully nailing the right midfielder, either Gomez, probably either Gomez or Bellegarde. It's probably these two, one of those two. And then I'd probably stick with the same defense and goalkeeper and just hope they keep a clean sheet. So all is not lost for Wolves. However, all is being lost, if that makes sense. So yeah, far too many points sharing from Wolves. Goalkeeper's having a nightmare. I don't really like the goalkeeper, but it is what it is. They're not going to play the backup who I'd like. They don't even put the guy on the bench at them anymore. Sam Johnstone is rotting in the Wolves reserves. Bentley's the sub-goalkeeper. Sam Johnson doesn't even make the bench these days. So hopefully he gets a move and is a good classic card next year because I've got this Wolves collection that I'm not going to sell. And let's go off topic. If I'm thinking next season, I've got it to 5. Is it 5% now? My collection has finally hit 5%. My first ever 5% collection is just at 5%. It wasn't like that last week. So we've got a Wolves collection at 5%. So if Sam Johnstone leaves, I want him to go to a championship team and be like James Trafford is this season. Be a challenger smasher next season. So he could be a great option if he leaves Wolves. Cunha could be a great option if he leaves Wolves with a 5% bonus. Lemina could be a great option playing in Turkey. He's at Galatasaray now. And he's been given some okay scores. He had a couple of good games when he first started at Galatasaray. Now he seems to be back on the bench. Came off the bench last week. So again, hopefully he gets settled in this remainder of the season. And then next season, he's Galatasaray starter. Strand Larson is still young. Could he be a smasher next season? Could he be a bit of a Chris Wood classic card next season? Could Sarabia leave? He's a card I could see leaving and going to MLS or hopefully not Saudi Arabia, but I could see him going to another league, hopefully covered by Sorare and having a bit of a last paycheck somewhere. Tommy Doyle was still waiting to break into the first team and become a great player. Pedro Lima is this Brazilian wonder kid who Wolves beat Chelsea to signing him, and there was so much hype around Pedro Lima. Maybe he breaks through and is finally really good, could become a good under 23 option for me next year. So there's a few options within this Wolves collection where I can kind of see if I keep the collection, keep it at 5%, possibly some of these cards could be great. But realistically, Cunha's the kind of one that is probably the only serious one I'm backing to go on and do great things. But we're hopeful Sam Johnston. There's a slight glimmer of hope. Sam Johnston can be that next year for someone's goalkeeper. So yeah, that was Wolves. That was Ipswich. Liam Delap scored. I was a bit disappointed that Leif Davis didn't play. I think in my last Road to Sorare Boss video, I was debating playing Leif Davis in one of my capped leagues. In the end, I didn't play him because in the midweek, he didn't start again for Ipswich. So I was like, Leif Davis is no longer starting left back, which I don't fully get. But I'm holding on to my Leif Davis card because he was so good in the Championship last season. Part of me thinks if Ipswich get relegated, he might become a good classic Premier Championship card again next year. And then I've got a Liam Delap card as well, which I'm also keeping because he's got to be moving. So I'm just hoping he moves to an exciting team and is a smasher next year in the Premier League. So that was Ipswich versus Wolves, and that is basically Ipswich all but relegated. So Wolves should now be safe, and Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton are probably going to be the ones getting relegated now. Well, Southampton definitely, they're officially relegated, but I think that game surely is the final nail in Ipswich's coffin. West Ham Bournemouth, this was a hard one to predict because Bournemouth have been all over the place lately. West Ham showed a bit of promise with Potter, but then the last couple of games have gone a bit down under the radar. So it was hard to know which way this was going to go. I didn't play any Bournemouth cards in any of my lineups. I do have Evan Nielsen, Semenyo, Lewis Cook, Zabani. I have 4 in-season cards and a classic Kepa. So I do have 5 Bournemouth cards within my Sorare universe. However, I didn't play any of them, mainly because I've been trying to sell them. I've been trying to get rid of all of my in-season Bournemouth cards now because I only want to keep the essential collections for next year. And all of the cards that aren't really collections I want to keep, I'm trying to get rid of and trade away. Trying to get rare cards. I'm trying to trade Premier League in-season limited cards, like 2 of them for 1 rare card that might be worth something next year. So I'm trying to be clever with how I clear a bit of my gallery out. So I didn't play any of my Bournemouth cards this week so that I could keep trading them and offering them out, which I've been doing. I wish I'd played my Evan Nielsen, though. 2 goals from him. He's been in great form lately, Evan Nielsen. He has been scoring for absolute fun. Look at his last ratings. 8.7, 7.5, 7.6, 7.8. So Evan Nielsen has been in good form and kind of making me think, is it worth me keeping my Bournemouth 4 in-season cards just to power up my Evan Nielsen card next year as a classic card? Is he that good? If Evan Nielsen leaves Bournemouth and goes to like Liverpool, for example, then I'm going to really wish I kept Evan Nielsen and the supporting Bournemouth cards with him to kind of power up his classic card. So I'm in 2 minds now. Part of me is thinking I should just sell the Bournemouth collection because it's only 4 cards. Sell the 4 cards or sell the 3 and just keep Evan Nielsen on his own and don't worry so much about the XP and the collection score and just keep him as a standalone card. So we're going to see. I'll sell them if I get a good offer or if there's a good rare card I can kind of swap them into. But for now, I'm down on Bournemouth. I'm not so confident. I think Evan Nielsen's a good option for you, but everyone else, possibly when Clivert comes back, Bournemouth's attacking form could change. But defensively, they just don't look as solid as they used to. West Ham haven't exactly been a free-scoring team lately. So this was a game when they could have restricted West Ham. They could have contained them, maybe just conceded 1 goal. So to concede 2 goals is pretty damning on their defense. The good news for Bournemouth, though, is they didn't lose. So we're still unclear about West Ham and Bournemouth. Are Bournemouth on the road to recovery? We still can't really say. Are West Ham picking up form with Potter? Hard to say. So the draw doesn't really help any narrative with West Ham or Bournemouth. In terms of Sorare, I think Jared Bowen has proved himself again to be a fairly consistent threat for Sorare. If you've got a Bowen, like I have a classic Bowen, that's not going to go anywhere. I'm keeping him. Ward-Prowse, my boy. I've been preaching about Ward-Prowse for weeks now. I love him. This formation suits him perfectly. I only hope that West Ham, if they strengthen in the summer, they keep Ward-Prowse and they keep this formation because it's working for him. So Ward-Prowse did well. Kudos got an assist, which is the first time I can remember him giving a kind of decisive, some kind of decisive. So that was interesting. And then Paquetá getting a good score, even though he didn't give any decisives. Good game from him. Wan-Bissaka, probably the best West Ham defender right now is Wan-Bissaka. You probably wouldn't want to go Alvarez, Todibo, kind of in the first team sometimes. Sometimes he's out of the first team. Kilman's the one I've got in Classic. So he's the one I played in one of my lineups. Where do we play Kilman? I think I played a West Ham stack in Premier League here. Here we go. West Ham stack in Classic. Didn't win me anything. West Ham goalkeeper and defender always letting me down. Attacking wise, though, the combination of Ward-Prowse and Bowen did well. And even though Paquetá had a good game, he didn't have a good game for Sorare. A 40 is not what we want to see. And I am keeping this West Ham collection because, again, a bit like that Wolves collection, there's a lot of players there that if they move, I can see good futures for them still. Paquetá could easily move to like Arsenal, Man City, that level of team. And then I'm going to be like, well, it's worth having this West Ham collection just for Paquetá. So I think that's at like 4% my West Ham collection. So if anything, I could build that collection out and try and get it to, it's at 3%, 120 off 4%. So I would ideally like this at 4%. I think if I buy these remaining cards or wait till a few of these 10s turn into 20s, I think I can hit 4%, but I can't hit 5%. So yeah, West Ham, again, showing signs that they're coming back, showing signs that it'll be a good Sorare team, but they might be a better Sorare team for next season. And I am fully aware. I said this at the end of last season, which is why I bought that Classic collection of West Ham cards. But I'm saying it again. West Ham for next year, not this year. Bournemouth, who knows? I think Bournemouth, maybe if they strengthen in the right places, Bournemouth could do well. But what I fear is going to happen with Bournemouth is they'll lose the manager. Maybe there's lots of rumours he's going to go to Tottenham. They might lose Evan Nielsen because he's a guy scoring lots of goals in the Premier League. There's not many strikers doing that, so lots of teams will want Evan Nielsen. I'm guessing Cliver and Semenyo might be wanted by the big teams. Kurkes in defence, there's rumours Liverpool are going to replace Robertson with him. Huijsen's very good, maybe too good for them. So yeah, if Bournemouth lose a lot of their players, this could be the peak. If they keep a lot of the squad and strengthen wisely, because they have shown that Bournemouth can sign a good player. If you look at these players in this Bournemouth team, they put this team together. So they've got good scouts. They've got the ability to build a team, have Bournemouth. But you just wonder, like, did they get lucky with a lot of these transfers they made? Will they get that lucky again? Who knows? So a lot will depend on Bournemouth next year. If they buy a few decent players and manage to keep a few of their players, they could be worth buying again next year in season. So I wouldn't mind selling my in-season cards now while it looks like they're in the down, waiting to see what happens in the summer, and then backing them again in season next year. So I'm not fully down on Bournemouth. I think I'm just down on them for the remainder of the season. So that was West Ham v Bournemouth. The last game on Saturday was Aston Villa 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Nottingham Forest lost. Can you believe it? Who did I have? I don't think I backed Forest that heavily. I put a bit of a defensive stack here, which kind of worked. Sells got 59, which isn't the worst score considering he conceded 2 goals. Williams got an assist. So that was fairly good. And I think I played the other ones in a kind of throwaway champion lineup. Division 3 champion. Yeah, Division 3 champion. I put Hudson-Odoi, Anderson, and Gibbs-White. All of them did bad. And if we look at the scores, it was a very bad game for Forest indeed. I actually didn't watch this game. It was my my boy had his birthday party on Saturday, so I couldn't go. I could go. I did go to that. I missed this. And yeah, a bit of a disappointment. I don't know why Gibbs-White was playing as a false number 9. That doesn't, to me, suit him as a player. I would have rather had Elanga there. I would have rather had Hudson-Odoi there. I would have rather had even Elliot Anderson as a false 9 and had Gibbs-White a bit deeper. I think this is damning evidence for Awoniyi, who wasn't even on the bench, wasn't injured, wasn't on the bench. Where was Taiwo Awoniyi? Why was he not on the bench? I'm guessing because he's not good, not at Forest's level. Hasn't really impressed for Forest all season. I know because I have an Awoniyi card to help with my Nottingham Forest collection, which I bought before the January transfer window, trying to be clever, trying to think if he leaves in the transfer window, he's going to be a great, if he goes to the Championship, he's going to score loads of goals. And I'll have a nice collection score on him. And so that's not worked out. He stayed, he didn't leave. And even though Chris Wood's injured, he did start 2 games, hasn't impressed in those 2 games. Now they're playing Gibbs White up front. So that looks like Awoniyi's Forest career is over. They played the 3 at the back. They didn't play 2 at the back, which is interesting. I do prefer it when Forest play 4 at the back. As a Forest defensive holder, I like Milenkovic in a 2. I think Murillo and Morato, Murillo is better in a 2 as well. I think when Morato plays, it kind of spreads the points too thinly across those 3 centre-backs. When they just play the 2, and it's a game where they're getting bombarded a lot, the 2 seem to do better so scores. But I think with Aina being injured, they had to kind of tweak the formation a bit. With no Chris Wood, they went for their 3 at the back, which they do now and again, and fair play to them. Didn't work this game. I don't know fully if that was because Villa are in really good form or if because Forest are maybe getting a bit tired. But if you've got Villa players, and I'm really annoyed that I didn't get a Rodgers like 2 months ago. I was looking at getting a Rodgers. I think I was looking at who's doing well in the Champions League that are going to make the knockout rounds. And Aston Villa were one of those teams where I was like, could go for Aston Villa. But I think what put me off is they had too many options. They had Rashford, Asensio, plus all of the old options like Diaby and all the other options, McGinn, Tielemans, so many options, Watkins up front. I think looking back now with hindsight, the play was Rodgers and Watkins. They were the 2 to go for. But I was so tempted with this Asensio. I was so tempted with Rashford. I ended up not going for any of them and just kind of going, I'll give it more time. Now I've given it too much time. So let's see what Villa do next year. I think they could be an interesting card. Here's an interesting shout. Here's an interesting Sorare take. If Villa don't get Champions League football next year, I think, and this is early Sorare prediction talk, this is early kind of gambles, Amreezy's hot take of the week. If Villa don't get top 4 or top 5, basically if Villa don't get Champions League football next season, I think they are the team to go for, the early pick, the early slightly budget call. They're the team to go for in season, early access next year. Because their values should come down a bit if they're not in the Champions League. Because the most popular teams are going to be Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and who's going to be the 4th most popular? Maybe Newcastle? Basically, teams that finish in the top Champions League in England, they're going to be the teams everybody wants. If Villa don't get Champions League, I think they might do what Chelsea have done this year and kind of play their best team in the Premier League and play a bit of a B team in the Europa League. If they finish in the Conference League, they'll definitely do that. And they'll definitely be the in-season Premier League team to be. So Rodgers, Watkins next year. And also it'll be dependent on who they sign. Because if Rashford goes back to Manchester United, if Asensio, I don't know if Asensio, he's on loan, I think. Did they sign Asensio? Or is he on loan? Here we go. He's on loan. So he'll be going back to... So if they don't sign Asensio, if they don't sign Rashford, is Marlon? I feel like they may have signed Marlon. But I can't see Marlon... Yeah, they signed Marlon outright. But if they don't keep Asensio and they don't keep Rashford, and say they buy some players that aren't as good at that level, we can kind of work out, okay, Rodgers, Watkins, Marlon will be the starters, and then the B team guys they've just signed, plus people like Diaby or whoever their backup boys are, Ramsey, McGinn, they'll be backup and they'll play in Europe. So I think Villa are a very interesting team for next year. If you've got Villa cards now, I think play them. You've got 2 Champions League games to come. They're doing well in the league. If they get, I think it's win-win with Villa cards in Sorare if you've got them right now, because if they get knocked out of the Champions League, they're just going to focus on the Premier League. So they're going to put all their focus on getting into the Champions League for next year. If they beat PSG somehow, you've got Champions League useful cards. So I think it's still an okay time to buy Villa cards. I'm not necessarily against anyone buying in-season cards still. I think there's still enough time in the season for you to make some money back. I just think you've got to really get it. You can't really go for gambles like Wolves anymore. You've got to go for teams like Villa, teams who are probably challenging for Champions League. I think they're the teams to go for, and slightly undervalued. Like maybe Man City's cards have come down in price and they're going to push on to at the end of the season. Maybe teams like Villa are in that bracket. So where are we? That was Saturday's fixtures. We have now got to review Sunday's games, where we kicked off with my boys Chelsea, who drew against Brentford 0-0, and this was a very disappointing game as a Chelsea fan, especially when Man City dropped points, Newcastle dropped points. No, Newcastle didn't drop points. Man City dropped points, Liverpool dropped points, Arsenal dropped points. Lots of teams dropped points. So if Chelsea had a won, would have been a nice Champions League boosting, finishing in the places win. But Chelsea have no strikers. Once again, Nkunku not good enough. Whenever he plays there, he's not good enough. Probably needs to leave. Sancho was better than a 6.9, and Sancho was lively in the last game as well against Spurs. So I've been quite impressed with Sancho. He's quietly going about his business, and I don't mind if Chelsea sign Sancho. There's been a lot of memes and jokes out there like Chelsea should pay Man United to get rid of Sancho and shouldn't keep him because they have to pay 25 million to keep him. I think that Chelsea should keep him. I don't think Sancho's that bad. I think he's a confidence player that on his day, Sancho looks better now than he did at Manchester United. So his confidence isn't as low as it was at Manchester United. He's still a lively player. I don't know why Dewsbury Hall was playing this game. Chelsea have got a fairly easy game in the Europa Conference, whatever it's called, coming up. So I would have assumed Dewsbury Hall would play that. But maybe Chelsea are just really going to go for the European Cup and not worry too much about the league now. Because Palmer didn't play, Jackson didn't play, Dewsbury Hall did play, Gusto played in midfield. A lot of weird tactical tweaks. Chelsea didn't look that bad, so I can't exactly criticize Enzo Maresca that much because it's not like it massively didn't work, the formation change, but it wasn't fully convincing. They didn't concede a goal, so Chelsea have now kept clean sheets in 2 games in a row, which maybe that's worth celebrating. Chelsea have not had that many things to celebrate this year. Maybe keeping 2 clean sheets in a row is something to celebrate. And Reece James has kind of been in midfield recently. Gusto was in midfield this game. 3 at the back. If it makes Chelsea more solid, I'm okay with the experiment continuing. I would just like to see Cole Palmer back in the team, please. That's all I'm asking for. Brentford weren't exactly that impressive as well. I think they're in a kind of position where they're kind of waiting for the season to end now. Mbeumo wasn't lively. Poor ratings from Visa and Mbeumo. They're the kind of 2 most popular Sorare cards I see out there in terms of Brentford players, these 2 boys. So it wasn't a good score for them. Vitaly Janelt, my card that I won, who I've been trying to get rid of for ages now and simply can't. He came off the bench, doesn't even start. Yeah. Brentford, Chelsea. Not a lot to get excited about for both teams. Next game was Fulham 3, Liverpool 2. And I watched this game with a close eye on Lukic. And even though his score wasn't great and he didn't have the best game, his price dropped a little bit because he didn't have the best game and didn't score that well. So I went out and got a rare version of him as my only rare Premier League card. My cards, rare. We gone and picked up. We've got 2 rare cards now, Lainez and Lukic. So I went and picked up one of these because I was actually impressed with him and how he plays. And he's had a bit of a dip lately, which is why his price has come down. But I bought him for I traded him actually for a card, Daniel Munoz Classic, and 10p. For a card which is now worth £1.72. So I think that's a fairly good deal. Got rid of a classic card, got a rare card, and all depends on next year, really. I'm kind of looking to build a cheap Premier League classic lineup. Maybe Fulham, because I've seen that Joaquin Anderson is also cheap. Lukic is cheap. If Fulham sign, Jimenez is quite cheap, Munoz is cheap, the goalkeeper's quite cheap. So I'm kind of looking at building maybe a bit of a rare lineup. But he was a one-off pick because I thought he's in a bit of a dip here. He's had a bit of a dip. These were international games, so you can't really take them that seriously. And the two bad scores were against Arsenal and Liverpool, when I don't know if you can expect that much from him in those games. Earlier, though, he did put some good scores. This is his first year at Fulham as well. So, is it his first year or his second year? Oh no, his second year at Fulham. But on his day, he has peaks. Especially this season. He's put some good scores. So, for £1, whatever it was, £1.50, I think that was a nice rare card to pick up as I start building some budget rare cards. I don't quite know, oops, in the live streaming section. I don't quite know where I'm going with my rare strategy. But all I know is picking up a few £1 or £2 rare cards. It's just so I can build a lineup and start churning maybe essence. Could be a nice way to go with rare. So I was impressed with Lukic. I think him and Berge are quite a nice midfield pairing. And if Fulham can strengthen next season, I think they could be an interesting pick. If they can keep the manager as well. He's another manager who's been rumoured to be going elsewhere. So I was impressed with Fulham massively. Beating Liverpool. And I've been impressed with Fulham on and off this season. Not every week, but there's weeks where randomly I'll go, Fulham were really good as well. Should we be considering them in Sorare? And then I talk myself out of it because a little bit like Crystal Palace, the AA spread too thin. But in rare, I'm kind of thinking a bit different now. And I'm kind of thinking if Fulham give you every 4 weeks a great score, and I can pick up rare players that start for them for like £2, it might be a rare strategy. So I was impressed with Fulham, and that was my kind of taking from it Sorare-wise. Raul Jimenez has been dropped. I don't like that because I've got Jimenez and I don't have Munoz. Liverpool, are we going to talk about how Salah hasn't done anything in ages? How this guy wanted a Ballon d'Or a few months ago and his last scores have been 6.4, 6.1, 6.4, a 7, but if you saw that game against PSG, he didn't turn up against PSG in either leg. He wasn't good enough against PSG, not in terms of the Salah that you expect. And then he turned up here, got 2 penalties, scored 2 penalties against Southampton, which kind of stat boosts that. So yeah, hasn't been great for a while for Liverpool. I'd sell him. I don't know why I'd cash in on him. Well, they can't cash in. I'm cashing him, but save your money. Don't give him a new contract. Let him go. Sign someone else. Get your replacement in now. Soboslai. Oh, by the way, I fully am aware Liverpool fans will massively disagree with that, and for sentimental reasons, I get why you'd want to keep him. But I would have cashed in on him last summer when there was crazy money being offered. But I get he's a talisman. They're going to win the league. He did help a lot earlier in the season. He's just going through a bit of a quiet patch, and that's unfortunate timing with contract negotiations being in the air. So Salah, Jota, Soboslai, Gakpo, no green scores in the attacks, some good scores in midfield, defense shocking. They're missing Trent. Jones was playing right back this game, which I don't think he's a right back. And Alisson's still not playing. How long's Alisson out for? Alisson, concussion. So I'm guessing Alisson will come back soon, because Keller is a kind of card I'm keeping my eye on for next year. I think possibly picking up a Keller card isn't the worst decision, because there's a lot of rumors he could be the first choice goalkeeper at a big club next year. So I'm keeping my eye on him. But with him starting games for Liverpool, it's not helping his price coming down anytime soon. So yeah, I think Liverpool, it's hard to get motivated when they've probably won the league already. But sloppy. Tottenham 3, Southampton 1. This game was significant for me because of Brennan Johnson. My boy Brennan Johnson. So I have 4 Tottenham cards across all scarcities, and I cobbled together 3 of them in this Premier League in-season lineup, which won me $5, and could have been better if Solanke had just done something. But Brennan Johnson and Nico Williams dragging this team, the 2 Welsh boys, dragging this team to a respectable score. Solanke and Bentancur with Southampton at home both started. Very disappointing that Solanke didn't do anything. Bentancur didn't score that well. Yeah, Tottenham, funny old team. Again, I don't know what to do with my Tottenham cards. I'm thinking I should sell them. Especially maybe Brennan Johnson might be worth a bit. What's his cards going for now? Could I cash in on Brennan Johnson while his stock's high? It's not that high. Last instant buy was £3.32. It's probably worth me just keeping them because I've got the two of them together, Johnson and Bentancur. I don't know. A lot depends on, if Spurs get a new manager in the summer and he kicks on for them and Johnson's playing every game at right wing in a very attacking Spurs, he could have an amazing season next year. He's got it in him. He's a good player on his day, but we just haven't seen it enough. Now, he has been injured for a long time. But when he came back from injury, so he was injured. Before he was injured, he was giving us great scores. I was loving Brennan Johnson in this period. This period of the season, Brennan Johnson was great. Then he got injured and came back from his injury and did this. So, a couple of goals against Southampton. Maybe his confidence is up. Let's see how he finishes the season. I just don't think cards are worth much right now. That with him being worth £3, that's kind of a lot for... Like, it doesn't sound much because I think I bought him for like £4 or £5. But, yeah, £2.56 is currently being sold on the second-hand market. So, £2.50, again, this is one of those things where I'm thinking there's more value in holding rare cards than limited cards. So, if I could get a rare card also worth £2.50 and find somebody that wants to swap a Brennan Johnson limited for a rare worth £2.50, that I could be tempted with. Otherwise, I think just keep him for the remainder of the season and hope that he continues his form and keeps doing what he does, because he's quite a streaky player. When he's in confidence, he's in confidence. Let's say that a different way. When he's confident, he's confident. So hopefully he does seem to group his good scores together and then go on quiet periods. Groups his good scores, then goes on quiet periods. Groups his good scores. So I'm hoping that was a quiet period and he can group some more good scores. So we'll keep Brennan Johnson. I've talked myself into keeping him. Spence played instead of Udogie. Quite interesting. Someone who has an Udogie in Classic. Was surprised about that. Maddison's back in the team. Slightly interesting if you've been patient and you've held on to a Maddison card this long. That's a fairly interesting shout. Southampton, Fernandes is the only good player for them. If you have a Fernandes, that would have been a good card actually. If you had a Fernandes card, because Tottenham don't really keep clean sheets. So if Southampton were going to score, it's probably going to come from Fernandes. He's the kind of best attacking outlet for them. Well, why can't I grab his face? There we go. He drifts around. He plays as a good number 10. He drops back sometimes, but he's quite good at dropping into these spaces and helping players in his team that aren't on his level. So Fernandes, yeah, if you had one of him, happy days. Otherwise, stay clear of those Southampton boys. The last game on Sunday was 0-0 Manchester United versus Man City. I was watching this game more closely when Zirkzee came on. Joshua Zirkzee. Because I've got a Zirkzee card now. I crafted it. Did I craft it? No, I didn't craft it. I won a Zirkzee card. Which... I'm in the wrong section. Which I think is a little bit unfair, because that was a tier 2 win. Now, here's my Sorare question for you. Can any Manchester United player, except for Bruno Fernandes, be anything other than like a tier 4? Zirkzee was a tier 2 card that I won. And I don't know, Sorare. I don't know about that one. I'm not one that likes to complain too much, but I don't know, Sorare. I don't know about that one. So I don't want to sell him because he's going for like £2. My hope is that because he's a Manchester United player, if he just scores 1 week, there'll be some hype and his price will shoot up. Or I hold on to him maybe for next year. And if they get a different manager and they start playing a bit better and he fancies Zirkzee more than Højlund, and he gets in the first team a bit more nailed and starts putting some strings some results together, because he's a Manchester United player, if there's any glimmer of hope with him, I think his price could go back up. So I don't really want to sell him now when he's kind of at the lowest price possible. So I don't know. I'll keep him. He's a young striker. Oh, the other option is he leaves Manchester United, goes back to a team and a league where he's better and it's a bit of an easier level for him and does better in that league. Hopefully a champion league. That's another option. Maybe he goes on loan next year to a better team. He's still young. Maybe Manchester United see some potential in him but think he needs a loan. So he spends a year at somewhere like in France or, I don't know, somewhere where he plays first team football and can score. That's my other hope for him. So I'm not going to sell him now at £1.70, whatever he's worth. I also crafted this nonsense, but we'll talk about that on Thursday's video. So I was watching him closely when he came on, and I didn't have much to get excited about. Let's put it that way. Garnacho impressed me. Garnacho did impress me in this game. Didn't do anything, didn't get any decisive, not a great score, but he showed willingness. And I do think I've seen Manchester United under other managers where they just aren't playing for the manager at all. And even though the form is not great, they are still at least playing for the manager. They are still trying. There just seems to be zero confidence at the club whatsoever. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good sign for Amorim, that he'll stay there, that he's got the players on board, or he's leaving. And that when a better manager comes in the summer, or not better manager, that might be too harsh, but if they do change the manager in the summer, and he has a bit of an uplift, maybe Zirkzee gets something there. But other Manchester United players I think are probably worth just keeping in the back of my mind are Garnacho, because they didn't sell him. There was rumours they would sell him in January. They didn't. That shows someone at the club really values him. And now that he's in the first team at Manchester United and does look lively, if they click, or not even click, if they just become a team next year that challenges for Europe, Garnacho could be a good option. Ugarte, I've been saying I love Ugarte. I think he's an amazing player. Again, not the best of scores for Ugarte, but he's a good player. And the way I kind of like to think of Sorare, and especially what I'm thinking in terms of rare, is getting players that are just good and not worrying too much about the form right now. Because if they're a good player, next year they might be better. Or if the manager changes, the good players will rise to the top. So it's what was my strategy with Lucic, why I bought him. And it's why I'm thinking of players like Ugarte, Garnacho. Yeah, they're not in good form teams right now, but I'm impressed with how they play still. Fernandes was the main man for them score-wise. Oh, actually, Mazraoui had the best score, and Onana. They were quite good in defence. They did keep Man City quiet. However, I do think Man City missed Haaland. If only they kept Julian Alvarez, they probably would have had another option. I don't know if Marmoush is quite good enough to lead the line like he has been the last couple of games. I think he's better off Haaland, but Haaland's not around, so they played Foden and Marmoush as two false nines. Didn't work, Pep. Didn't work. Pep did some vintage Pep work this week. Played a diamond in midfield with two false nines. Didn't work, Pep. You're overthinking it. Pep, if you're listening, and I know you are, I know Pep watches these videos. I know you subscribe to the channel, Pep. Thank you, Pep, for subscribing. Be like Pep, guys. Like, subscribe. He doesn't leave comments in my videos. I will say that, Pep. I will say, maybe leave a video comment this week, Pep. If not on this week's video, the Road to Sorare Boss video. Okay, Pep? If you're watching. And also, stop playing Marmoush and Foden as false number nines. You must have someone in the academy who's a striker. Who do they have on the bench? Play Savinho. Play Savinho as the false nine. But yeah, Pep did some pepping and it didn't work. Nunes at right back as well. 6.8 from him. What is he doing at right back? I've seen him play at right back for a few times now. I've not been impressed. But he doesn't like wing backs apparently. Nunes is a midfielder. O'Reilly is a midfielder. Foden is a midfielder. He basically played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 midfielders and 2 centre-backs. That was his strategy. So, surprisingly, he wasn't able to score against Manchester United. But yeah, I was more impressed with Manchester United's players like Garnacho, Ugarte, Fernandes than I was any of the Man City players. To be honest, I do think Marmoush is a great player when Haaland's back or when he's playing off a striker. What I'd like, though, with Man City is what I'd really like is them to tank the remainder of the season. All of those prices to come lower and lower and lower and lower. And then you pick up a few Man City cards at bargain basement prices. Next year, they pick it back up again. And you've got those cards at a cheap price because nobody believed in them now. That's my strategy with Man City. And that was Man City Man United. The last game we're going to finish this week's video on. is Leicester Newcastle. That's just happened today before this video. Easy win for Newcastle. I don't think we can really didn't really expect much. MDK in the chat. What's up, MDK? How was your Sorare weekend, my friend? Thank you for popping in and saying hi. How was your Sorare weekend? Not a great weekend for me. It looks like I'm gonna win $5. The giddy heights of $5 and 15 essence from me this weekend. But yeah, last game I've got to review is Leicester versus Newcastle. Just happened today. No surprises here. The only surprise, I guess, would be Isaac didn't deliver. Isaac really should have done better. But annoyingly, I sold my Jacob Murphy. I got rid of my Jacob Murphy card, so I didn't play him. I got rid of him 2 weeks ago. And he scored twice today. So, yay! Pain! Strand Larsen back in form. Too right, MDK. Too right. The only problem with Strand Larsen being back in form, as I showed earlier in this video, is Strand Larsen back in form, but rest of Wolves team in the bin. $5 and 15 and 18 essence. Very similar to me. Very similar to my $5 and 15 essence. Not great, but I'll take it. Me too, MDK. Me too. I'll take it as well. Could be worse. Could be worse. But yeah, if only the rest of the Wolves team could have delivered. I think going forward, they've got Leicester in 3 games' time. And Cunha will be back for that. So Larsen in inform Larsen and Cunha against Leicester as an attacking stack. I'll probably have to go for the full 5 stack for that game because Leicester at home, you'd hope they keep a clean sheet as well. But, I mean, I just don't want this to happen again. And I can easily see this happening again. Larsen might do well. Cunha might do well. But then they'll probably concede 1 goal. So the goalkeeper and the defender won't do anything. And the midfielder that you end up choosing, whether it be Gomez, Bellegarde, Sarabia. I think Sarabia was the one to go for this week, wasn't he? Sarabia got something silly. I've got a Sarabia card as well. As part of my Wolves collection at 5% now. But who would have seen Sarabia playing? Maybe Sarabia can cement himself in the first team for the next 3 games. Maybe Sarabia nailed himself as a first team player. But I think he was just in the team because Cunha wasn't. He also came off the bench. Came off the bench for 25 minutes and scored 2 goals. Yeah, he's not going to... Who knows, actually? Who knows? Last time he got an assist, he started the next game. There was a game against Southampton where he scored... Sarr, Totti, Bellegarde, Cunha, and Larsen would be nice. That's probably the 5 I'd go for if I could pick. If I could pick anyone, that is the 5 I'd go for. But boy, do those Wolves cards have a way of letting me down. That will be the week when Bellegarde doesn't do anything like he did this week. Yeah, because when Cunha plays, it'll be Cunha on the left, Larsen up front, and then I guess Bellegarde on the right. But it could be Sarabia if he starts hitting some form. It could also be who have the Wolves? I've forgotten his name. Wolves have been playing somebody else on the wing. Oh, what am I doing? We're reading stories about Palace. It could also be, here we go, Munetzi. Could also be him. I mean, I think the next 2 games for Wolves are important for us Wolves holders to see who's the extra winger. And can he be a midfielder card? That's the dream. Because you don't want to be playing Gomez and Andre. You don't want to be gambling on who's that one. What you want to be going for, Strand Larsen, Cunha. Yeah, Munetzi, that's the one, MDK. That is the one, Munetzi. So we've got 2 games before Leicester to see, is it Munetzi who plays with Cunha or does Bellegarde play? Hopefully we know by the Leicester game who it is. We've got 2 games to find out who it is. Then against Leicester at home, we go Larsen, Cunha, and hopefully Bellegarde as the front 3 against Leicester at home. Leicester may already be relegated. May not have a manager, may play a bunch of kids to build experience for next season. So it could be a really juicy fixture for Wolves. They've got Spurs and Manchester United to build confidence. Then Leicester at home. This is the one. This is all we've got to get excited for now as Wolves holders. Leganes drew to Osasuna. They got an equaliser today. In the 87th minute, Danny Rabba. I did play Danny Rabba somewhere. I played Danny Rabba. Here we go. I captained him in my 5 essence because Alonso didn't do much, Juan Jordan didn't do much, and Garcia didn't do much. Once again, Deportivo Alaves letting me down. Even though Deportivo Alaves, save it for Thursday video. Save it for Thursday's video, Amreezy. Stop rambling. Right. That is me done. That is me done. I've reviewed every Premier League game. Thank you, MDK, for jumping in and saying, giving your expertise and backing a fellow Wolves owner. Always nice to talk to a fellow owner. The Championship promotion race is awesome as well. It is. I've got Burnley cards. A few wait. Scrap that. I've got 1 Burnley card in Classic. But I always back Burnley in the... Because I've got 1 Burnley card in Classic, I always back them in the warm-up leagues where I go for Burnley players and then play my 1 card with them. Did I do that this week? This is my 1 card, Josh Cullen. So I usually go for goalkeeper and defender and Josh Cullen. But yeah, that's my Burnley card. Hoping for Burnley Leeds to get promoted. I think they would be the best in the Prem. Yeah, they'd be nice. They'd be nice. Nice one, MDK. See you later. I'll be back on Thursday for my Road to Sorare Boss video, where I'll be reviewing all of these lineups in more detail and showing you my lineups for the coming weekend. If that sounds like your cup of tea, join me on Thursday for that. It won't be live, so if you ever want to chat with me, the only time I've got open in my calendar right now are Mondays. So join me on Mondays videos for live content if you want to chat with me. Otherwise, if you want to see refined, thoughtful Sorare processing, that's my Thursday video. I'll see you then. Good luck with your midweeks, everyone. Peace.